Cloud. Here we go. Okay, awesome. Well, welcome to today's Playing to Win. I'm so excited, Harma. I started an author series, right? That I reached out to you, and I thought, you know what? It would be great in August. A little alliteration there, August author series. But what if I had some people that really I think are playing to win at a high level? Which obviously we've had you visit us in Austin before, but I really wanted to talk a little bit more specifically on a little bit deeper into your book, and also how you take kind of your mindset and you play to win in both life and business, because I think you do it at a high level on many different things. So I'm really excited. For those of you who do not know Harma, Harma and I have known each other a long time. He's been every kind of leader in Keller Williams in a good way, and really risen and owns an office in California. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But he wrote this wonderful book. And when did you publish this, Harma? When did this come out? Because it's just a few months ago, right? Just this year.
March.
It was just March. Gosh, is that it? It seems like longer, probably because I've read it twice now. I'm like, it seems like it's been, I've talked about it to so many people. But I think that this book is so perfect in any time, but what we're going through right now in life, right? And look, right now you're in Palm Springs, right? And you live in LA, but you're in Palm Springs and you're on moving day and you're still giving us your time. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being around. It would help if I got closer to my microphone. But think about what's going on with the Delta. And now, like, you were going to be flying to Austin for Mega Camp. Now that can't happen, right? Why? Because now, in Austin, hospitals are full. It's just not just a good place to bring in thousands of people to our city. So I think it was a really smart call on our leadership. But again, it's for a year and a half, we've all been dealing with COVID and the pandemic and shifting our lives. And so this whole theme of getting back up, I think, is so relative and so important and so time just valuable, that I really wanted to bring stories to people to inspire them that no matter what's going on in your life, you can always get back up, and it's a choice. And to me, that's a playing to win mindset. And that's exactly why I do this series. Harma, I started that this year because I said, you know what? 2020 was a lot of playing not to lose. In 2021, it's all going to be about playing to win. And it's a mindset, it's a decision, right? So every week I'm interviewing an agent or somebody on how they play to win. And it's been so much fun. And so for August here, I'm reaching out to my friends like you who have written and published books that I think are really going to impact people. So just a little background on Harma. So just welcome to Playing to Win today. I'm so honored to have you as our guest today.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you that the book has helped me to move on deeper from what has happened to me for all my life. But then I've been so lucky with getting messages from people that they have gone through worse than what I have gone through, which is obviously my story is not the worst. And the only reason I wrote it to make sure people know there are more things can happen to you. And I got some messages, and yesterday I was on the phone driving here, and a young gentleman that I mentor, he opened up and he shared something that happened to him, and oh my God, it's just so much worse than I thought. And so the whole idea is like that whatever happens to you, someone is going through something worse than you.
Yeah.
How do you look at it, right? And I honestly didn't realize that until I wrote it. Like I wasn't like this aware when I was writing anything, So, but I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm pretty transparent here. And I mean,
I love that about you. I love that. Yeah, you're an open book, and I'm an open book, and I think that's why we love each other so much. Is we're pretty authentic people, and we're not hiding anything. But I do think everyone has a story, right, Harma? Everyone has a story. And like you said, nothing in here is saying like you pity me or whatever. None of that is. It's kind of like you telling your story. And the more you tell your story, the more actually you did the biggest work of all by writing this book. for yourself. That was a huge gift to yourself, which now becomes a gift to so many other people that need to process through their stuff, right? Which I think is beautiful. So for those of you that are listening who don't know you, I'm going to read about the author part. Harma Hartouni is a self-made entrepreneur and developer, owns a real estate company employing hundreds of residential and commercial real estate agents in Southern California, and runs the #1 ranked real estate business in his region. Harma has created a successful brand with his growing business footprint in Los Angeles, building a large real estate practice exceeding $1 billion in sales in 2019. As founder and CEO of multiple companies serving the local real estate market, Harmas businesses include financial services, technology, and coaching. A personal passion Harma has developed into advising some of the top agents in the country on strategies to grow their business. Harma creates real estate portfolios for investors, runs a highly profitable escrow company, and has expanded into property development with multiple active projects. Among awards and recognition received, the National Association of Realtors named Harma as one of their top 30 under 30 brokers in the country. And that's amazing, right? And the Los Angeles Business Journal has recognized him as one of their 40 under 40 most influential business owners. I'm so excited about that. Harma lives in LA with his partner, their 3 children, 3 dogs, and 2 turtles. I love that, right? Just to give a little history, but then you read this book. Right. So on paper, when you read about the author, anybody would think, oh, he's had it easy, whatever. And then you read your story and you're like, OMG, that's amazing.
Yep. It's definitely closest friends of mine did not know at least half of the things. And it shaped me. And some of them will say, oh my God, now that you do that, I understand why. Yeah. And we always, we get impacted by our past. And I had an interesting journey. I was born here, but I was 30 days old, moved to Iran. I'm Christian, but we lived in a country that just went through revolution and minorities didn't matter as much as before. And so I was minority there. And then I moved here and then I became minority here. And then I had almost similar challenges when it comes to rejection. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, I thought something is wrong with me. And I even tried to fix myself by seeing doctors, you only want to fix yourself when you think something is wrong with you until you get selfish, then you accept yourself and then you be like, I am who I am. Right. And which then immediate people around you, when you change, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're so selfish. And you put yourself first, which in my culture is like, you put everyone first, you live your life for them. And it got to a point that thought I should not live in this earth. I mean, I should just be gone in a minute and be done with it. And
you're like, you're in the wrong place. You're definitely in the wrong place, right? Yeah.
I'm bringing shame. And then I came out. And that was a different journey. Before I moved to the US, I hit a car. I came out of a car, another car hit me. My both legs broke. And
told you we're never going to walk again.
Yes. Yeah. And all of it, if you read it together, you will see it's like literally the name of the book is like Getting Back Up. And it's funny because I had like amazing team behind me but you don't make money writing a book, by the way. So anyone who's excited, just know, don't write it for yourself. But my team was like, here are the names, here's the logo. And I had it all set up. And me and my husband we are connected, but we don't do business. Like a lot of couples, they're very involved in each other's business. We don't do that. Like he has his career, mine, and we just support each other. So I had all the things on the table and he walks in and he's on the phone. I'm sure we're talking to someone famous and he just walks and goes like, I don't like any of them. I'm like, are you serious? We're going live. Like, what is wrong?
I need a title for my book.
I said, actually, I don't want to get involved. I said, I'm just going to pick one because I take actions fast. And then he paused. He goes like, just name it Getting Back Up. Hello. And then walked away. I was like, oh my God, I spent so much money to come up with all of this. And he just said it in 30 seconds. So,
well, in all fairness, your husband's also like a big marketing, like amazing guy at Disney. So
He's very smart. And
Yeah.
so anyway, the name of Getting Back Up, and every time, like I went through something a month ago, and it shook me inside. I don't get that far. Obviously I have, but not that often. And I was just like, couldn't put it's hard to pull yourself up when you're
Yeah.
beat up, and my books were all on top of each other and in front. And I had a lot of them that I had to sign and I had to send, and I couldn't see them. I was just going through what I went through until I made a conscious effort that it's okay to cry, it's okay to be beat up, but get over it at one point. When is that? When is the time you're just going to be get over? Because you can't continue. And then my associate walked by, goes like, hey, can I get one of your books right now? And I was just not in a moment. I said, sure. I grabbed it and I put it down to a sign. I looked down and it was all in front of me, but I looked down and it says Getting Back Up. I was like, oh my God, I went through worse than what I'm going through right now. This is just nothing. So you put a perspective again. And I literally bounced back. Many years ago, it would have taken me a little bit longer to bounce back. But I think when you go through things at one point, mentally, physically, you start just adapting faster, because this
Yeah.
will move forward.
Well, and I think people who haven't read your book don't really know what we're talking about. But I love that you open your dedication. You said this book is dedicated to those who have struggled in life and been ashamed of who they are because they are different, to those who have had to find a way to accept where they are and choose where they're about to go. I love that you made that dedication at the beginning. But you talk about here in your book. I just want to say a little things from the book, and then I want to talk about what's going on now, because you're also running a real estate team. You're running a real estate office in LA. And I love all your live streams you do. You're always like, either you're on your walk or something. I don't know, walk or a run or something. And you're just like, let's talk about the market. I loved your one the other day about you're at the doctor's office and you overheard the doctor talking to somebody else about, like an $1,800 lease for a Range Rover or something. And you're like, well, since you asked, like, really, like, why wouldn't you take that money and invest in real estate? Like, right. And I thought that was so interesting, because we're always, I feel like if your calling is helping and growing others, you're doing it all the time, no matter where you are, right? It doesn't stay within the walls of the Keller Williams office, no. Right? It's when you're, there in Palm Springs, moving stuff into your new place and somebody you run across to, whatever. It's like your ears are always there. And so what I love about you telling your story, it's a way to give people permission if they don't feel like they're in the right spot. Like, you had to come, you grew up in a culture that did not accept, number one, being gay. That was not an option. You had story after story. You get this terrible accident. Your father didn't know how to show you love. Like, there's so many things, right, along the way that could have broken you, right? They really could have, Harma. They could have broken you. And like literally with, the bus incident where you get, you think you're not going to be able to walk. And then how your father showed his love by getting you the best doctor, right? There's just so many pieces there, but you never did. And you kept getting back up. And I think that's the kind of messages people need to hear, is like, hey, no matter what's going on right now, we will get through this, right? This pandemic, none of us saw this coming. Nobody saw this coming.
We're going through this, all of us together. This is the most beautiful part of the pandemic, that it's not happening only to one person.
Right.
It's nothing beautiful about it. Don't take me wrong.
Right.
We're all going through it. And
Yeah.
you can't be more united to have one thing in common, is a pain. So we all have one pain.
Yeah.
And we have to go through it together. And sadly, I think this is nothing to what can happen.
Exactly.
And if we're cracking right now and we're losing relationships, husband and wife cannot be on the same page, and kids are not health, whatever it is happening with you, losing jobs, financially getting affected. What if something bigger happened? Yeah. And so when you say that, this doesn't look that bad.
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly. Right. I think about Harma at the time of when 9/11 happened. I was
Mhm.
living in Germany. Those were the 9 years I was living in Hamburg. I worked in the film industry and I'd already had the little boy. So I was like a stay-at-home mom for 5 years there. And I loved every minute of it. And I remember coming back from my walk and the first plane had gone in. So it was still kind of unknown, like, was it an accident, whatever, right? And so, when we knew that the second one went in, like, wow, what's going on? It turns out that the pilots, I don't know if you know this, the pilots were living in southern Hamburg that flew into the two buildings in an area called Harburg, which is like kind of south of Hamburg. And I remember though, what was so interesting about that is when I went down to the American consulate to like bring flowers and things like that, I was overwhelmed with the amount of how the world came together on that. Like you said, with the pandemic, it impacted everybody. It was not a country thing. Like the buses in Germany and the trains all had a black thing over them. There were just, I went there thinking, how many Americans can there be in Hamburg? And it was full of Germans and people from all countries mourning that, right? And so it was like, when you have something like that, that was the only time I saw something similar to what we're going through now, that I've personally experienced something like that. But again, we have to remember. And so now we're in a really interesting phase, I think, because everybody's like, woohoo, the virus is behind us. And then woo, here comes stage 2. And so people kind of don't know how to dance because they're like, don't want to wear masks, whatever that is. We are all so much better together. And I think obviously we still have lessons to learn, because you're right. It could be so much worse. We still have power and food and water and all of those things that we, right, can get through this. We can still do business. People can still, right. It's just,
Look at our industry. Like,
yeah.
I literally, when COVID hit on the March 27th of last year, I was just couldn't think. I was like, what is this? And I've been recruiting for Keller Williams when I started 16 years ago, one at a time. Like, you build relationship, you really have an impact. And then, but then throughout that, I've seen people filing bankruptcy, shutting down companies, big companies, small companies in my territory, they shut down. So I called my leadership and I said, well, I don't know if we need to get a bankruptcy attorney, or I don't know how it works, because I just never thought I have to file bankruptcy, and never in my life I had financial issues in a sense of committing and not delivering. So I don't have that, but I guess this is it. And then I pulled myself together, because I heard so many other owners thinking the same. They're all like, yep, this is it, we're going down. And I thought real estate industry is this. I was expecting the change. And then I said, you know what, if everybody is thinking about shutting down, and we are going to shut down, what about we shut down in a bigger volume? Like, let's just recruit and let's focus on farming and let's focus on more business. And then when market came back to what it is, we hit 1 billion in volume in 6 months, and we didn't hit that. So it's like I wasn't expecting that, but you kind of have to do the opposite and versus anyway.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I want to read out of your book here in your preface. It says, being a survivor can mean a lot of things. It can mean strength, misfortune, sickness, pain, trauma, resolve, or resilience. For me, it means all of those things, but most of all, it meant tenacity. It means I do not give up on what I want. And ultimately, what I want is to be happy and honest. I believe happiness can coexist with the darkest and most challenging pieces of who we are. I have been victimized, but I'm not a victim. My past does not in any way dictate what I'm capable of in the future. I believe everyone is a survivor. Everyone can take the things that have happened in their lives and grow from them. Whether you learn from them or just develop a heightened immunity, you can find purpose in life's challenges. This isn't a biography. It's merely a collection of events in my life that have been the most impactful in leading to where I am today. Everyone has a story. I'm telling mine because I want my husband, my colleagues, my kids to know that it's never about what happens to you. It's about what you do with it. I'm using my past to create a better future. I'm moving forward.
Yep.
I love that. That just gives me chills. When you hear that you wrote that, what do you think? Like, aren't you proud of yourself, my friend?
Yeah. So this is hilarious. So yeah, it's a, when I was writing it, I didn't realize it will be very um, deep. And actually, it's funny, when I finished it, I just was like, oh, I'm done with this 3 years. Ugh, I just don't want to know about it. And then I read it and I was like, what the hell was I thinking? And why did I put this? It was, as I was writing it, most probably, I didn't realize until when I was reading it again. And I don't know how honestly, I don't know how I got the courage to publish it. At one point, I just don't know how I did it. I think I just said, I'd go publish before I regret it, or
Before I change my mind.
But yeah, but thank you for reading that. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And this whole book, I mean, I have so many, I could spend a whole day with you. Let me just pick another excerpt that I just love so much. There's so many. Well, since we were just talking about what's happening in our world, I think this is really, on page 49, it says, I've learned in life, you have to be capable of dealing with unexpected situations that are beyond your control. I mean, hello, right? We just talked about that. You have to be comfortable with what is uncomfortable. When my father was away, I could be myself. My mother made that time bright and enjoyable. It was truly a respite. But living with my father taught me things are often unpleasant. Sometimes you have to live amid unpleasantness with an intense desire for things to be different. So the question then becomes how you deal with it. If you're in a position where you aren't able to change a situation, don't waste energy questioning it. Use that energy to adapt as best as you can and hold on to your sanity. The difference between a human being and a rock falling off a cliff is a rock falls silently and a human screams and wails, even though the outcome will be precisely the same. If you're going through a difficult process, don't fight it. See it for what it is and get to the other side. Otherwise, it makes all the more miserable for yourself, right?
Yeah, you can't skip the process.
Yeah.
I think that's in real estate, for example. I get so many people like, I want to be you. I want to have that farm. I want to close 10 deals a month. I'm like,
right.
I give you an example. I'm really want to become a captain on, like, learn how to be on a yacht and be professional at it, because I want to have a yacht, and then I will not let my kids on it if I'm the captain. I got to know what I'm doing.
Right.
I take classes, which is during the day, because on the weekends, there are people around me and I get anxious. I want to learn on a Tuesday morning. So I'm on Tuesday morning on a yacht with captain, learning since 7 a.m. At 11 o'clock, I get off and I drive to the office and I continue my day. While I'm there, I posted a picture. I had an agent who's very driven, said, wow, I admire that. I want that, And I said, you're on track. You have 19 and a half years to go.
I love it.
But
yeah.
it wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
What you see,
It's
so
not overnight. Yeah.
when an agent is closing, 40 deals a year, they didn't start. I mean, I don't need to ask them. I know they didn't start 2 years ago.
That's right.
So there is an effort that goes to build that up, and unexpected things when happens, like our COVID situation right now, that you can, first of all, I don't know if this is going to be the wrong, maybe I shouldn't say this, but as I said, I'm transparent. Stop listening to either channel of newsletter. I don't care what you believe in. Yeah. Just don't, because first of all, everyone has a different opinion, and it's just like, and
it's noise the whole time, right?
It's not the same thing the next morning.
Yeah.
Afternoon is not the same thing. Stop. You know what I mean? And someone told me, very smart, clever, positive, constantly positive. Like, it's so annoyingly positive that like, how do you stay positive? He said, news, when it were built, it was a horror movie that was not supposed to end. So if they end it, you won't watch it again. Yeah. Like The Ring and all the other movies, that you're done.
Right.
They can't end it. So they,
Right.
in the right end, when you get off, there's one more hook, right?
Yeah. There's a sequel and a sequel and a sequel. Yeah.
And he was explaining how chemically that
Yeah.
makes you go banana,
Yeah.
and so I will listen, because no matter what you listen, when it's good, you will know.
Yeah.
And protect your family, and just do the best you can until we're on the other side.
Yeah, I remember taking a class at UCLA. That's where I graduated from in '93. And I was in a communications, I was an English major, and I almost got my master's in communication at UNO in New Orleans, but that's when I got the opportunity to go to Germany. So I didn't do it. But I remember we talked about that, the sensationalism, right? That's how you get viewers. It's like, because that's what people want. Because it's like, isn't that sad? So we're feeding ourselves with this stuff that makes us more anxious and fearful, and right. And otherwise people don't watch, which let's do some reprogramming there. It's funny what you mentioned. So now I'm going to read out of page 67 is because it's about playing to win, right? It says you write here, the act of winning. This is about your dance competition and stuff, right? The act of winning lasted about 3 minutes max, which is kind of a long time when you consider Oscar speeches are only 45 seconds. It flew by. Yet the work that went into winning took months, hundreds of hours of work, and years of prior practice. Like you on the yacht and the agent that says that, right? There's nothing that happens overnight that isn't tied to some form of luck. Winning the lottery, that's based on luck. Anything based on skill requires preparation. As a businessman, I have learned there is no such thing as an overnight success. Absolutely nothing. Even if it looks that way from the outside, things always happen gradually, 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 and then suddenly,
Mark
right?
will tell me that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember Mark saying that too. And it's so interesting that people see the success, and that's what playing to win. Playing to win is a decision you make every single day, right? It's a decision you make every single day of, how you want to show up in the world. So tell me, I know your book talks about it and you show it, but let's talk a little bit about bringing that into the market, because you're also very entrenched in, you do what I do and then some, you've got a team and all kinds of stuff. So let's talk about, what does playing to win look like for you?
So the number one thing that I have a couple of very top producing agents. Some of them I actually directly involve in their business, and some of them I don't know exactly day to day what they do, but I'm their operating principal. They're on my panel, so I get very in tune of what they're doing, who are their coaches, if they have any. And one thing I will say, none of them in common, because I look at it as a common. You can't evaluate one person and just, I'm going to copy my model with this person. It's just like, I look at everyone and like, what is in common they have?
Right.
They are not competing with anyone else except themselves. Mm-hmm. So none of them are like, I'm going to bid that listing over this agent. They're just like, I'm going to get bigger market share.
Right.
Number two, none of them work for money. Money follows when they have the success. So they don't focus on the money, they focus on the success. And the success is the more transaction, more market share, more results. Number three, am I answering your question?
Yes, absolutely.
Number three, they are very intelligent and self-aware, actually, I should say, besides intelligent, to recognize what they're not good at. For example, none of them that they do in a high level, they say, oh, I'm in charge of my transaction. There's no pride of saying, I know everything about my transaction. Now, their agents do that. There's nothing is wrong with that. But I'm talking about the top 3%.
Yeah.
They say, I don't even know what social media will do for my business. Someone is doing something. I think it's working. They don't.
Right.
Because
they have leverage.
Yeah, they don't even say, I'm going to go post my own listing and wait for someone to say, I like it. They're like, it's a part of my business. Someone does it. So they're keep doing what they do, which is the old traditional way of providing service, cold calling, lead generating, follow-up. And follow-ups, what I noticed from them, used to be 3 follow-ups to get to a transaction. Now it's 9 months, 9 times. It's a lot more follow-ups.
Right.
And another thing that they do in common that as an agent, it's important to know they are adapt very fast to whatever that is. So for example, resisting Zoom. Oh, I don't know. This is not me. I'm not tech savvy. They don't say that. They're like, okay, I'm on Zoom now. Like they adapt very fast. And DocuSign, outsourcing, whatever it is that is working. For example, I've been hearing a lot of people outsource some of their assistants. There's not physical anymore. They're not actually local, and they pay a lot less. And I noticed a lot of the top 3%, they're like not all, the entire team, but they're outsourcing some element, but they're like adapt fast. They don't analyze. They don't go through 6 companies to decide. They just move on. And the last thing is their marketing, whatever it is. It's some they do a lot, some do less, but they don't stop it. You don't get 3 months of something and then, oh, that didn't work. They're just consistent at whatever they do. It is fascinating that we as agents will do anything to do nothing. Like we will, you know what I mean? We just rather give a 35% referral to Zillow than pick up the phone and call our last 10 clients.
No kidding, right? Yes. And then so much of that is limiting beliefs in their mind, right? And when they actually get into action, they're like, oh, this is actually fun. I actually really enjoy these people, right? But it's that mindset. It's that getting over their own limiting, whatever's holding them back.
You save money. You most probably have a higher conversion ratio because it came from your cousin. It came from the seller who just sold.
Right.
But, so what I noticed in the top 3, that although they might have an account with Redfin, Zillow, or whatever accounts they have to generate business, their majority of their business comes from traditional doing real estate. Yeah. So that's how it becomes 40, 50, 100 transactions. So,
right. Yeah. I love that. Hey, what do you think? Because you're in LA and you guys you cover a lot of LA. You're in Sherman Oaks, right? And so like that whole area, but I know you guys sell all over. What are you telling your agents you have to do differently now than you did like a year ago? What's different about the market? Because we had this crazy, I know LA was just like Austin where you'd have, 90 offers on the table, whatever. And and now we're feeling like a more of a stabilization, right? Where it's like, it's still very much a seller's market, but it's not, you might have 5 offers instead of, 50 offers, right? And you're not going to get 100 or 300,000 over ask like you were before. So how are we educating our people? Because I think it's always the catch-up game for the consumer. And so how are you advising like agents or clients how to handle that?
The number one is this, get your scripts right and learn to say sorry. Because you're going to start saying a lot of, you got to listen a lot and say, sorry, I understand. And then because the seller's expectations, every time you sell something, the next seller thinks more is worth more. They don't think, okay, I'm going to sell less. So you have to get used to that script of, this is not the trend. This is what the changes will see. Number 2, I will say that, this is what we did recently, 2 days ago, notice of defaults and foreclosure. You can look at the zip code that you have an appointment and pull all the stats on that for now and then 2 years ago. So when you go to an appointment, just say, although you've been hearing market is hot, I want to show you how many people have not paid their mortgage and what we're facing. Again, in California, we're going to have a lot more rules to foreclose. You might have less, but educate them so they realize moving on now and selling it faster. And our agent also, if they were listing agent and they're like appraisal contingency remove, even though they are putting 10% down and they've been $200,000 over asking, I tell my agents that you are responsible for that deal. Yeah. If you pick the transaction that is only 10% down. Yeah. And they have no money. But you took an offer that is 200 over, who do you think is going to deal with the consequences? And so, it's just a matter of how do you keep this deal together? Because the moment escrow cancels, 2 weeks into it, the next buyer, it's unlikely is going to pay the same price.
Yeah.
So, we notice appraisers don't come in, buyers are walking away, and the inspection has become totally another round of negotiation.
Which was not the case, just a few months ago, like a month ago, actually, right? I mean,
it's just changed.
It's been so quick. It's funny, we talk about lead generation, right? And how you were saying some people would rather just pay for leads than actually just call their database. I love one part in your book where you talk about, it must have been at one of the KW conventions, and you're up there with all the top team leaders, right? And the first person says, "I love lead gen. It's my life. It's recruiting is my life." Because what people don't realize is what we do as leaders of the company is the same thing. We're real estate agents. We're just doing it. It's the same thing, right? We're just growing the company with talent. So it's just like a listing for us, right? So it's the same struggles, same everything. And then the next guy goes and says, "Oh, I love recruiting." And then you get on, you're like, and you say, you made some comment. And then you say, "I didn't say I loved it. I never said that I loved lead generation." And then the person asking is like, "But you did double of what they did." And you're like, "Yeah, I never said I loved it. I just know how important it is." And I found that, so you just knew, and I just got it done in the morning, and then I had the rest of my day, right? Because you've sold real estate, you've led off. I mean, you've done everything that could touch real estate. I thought that was a really interesting point, because I think right now the name of the game to play to win is you have to be current on what's happening, because what happened 3 weeks ago in that market too. Now you have a conversation to have with them.
That's why I said adapt very fast.
Yeah.
Don't lie to yourself. "Oh, I am for escrows." That's long time ago. Even it's pending right now. It's over. So, and your agents are very lucky to have as I know a lot of team leaders and OPs. They're very lucky to have you, because I don't see that in tune like you are with the market to bring, because if the only expense that you want them to succeed. So you're thinking about what's going on so I can keep my meetings relevant to today's market. So
right.
Great job on that.
Oh, well, thank you, my friend. And it's different. It's funny because even the playing to win, series we've had all year, I'm like, okay, so last week we talked about that, and wow, it just changed overnight. So what are you telling seller? Like don't base your pricing. So what are you seeing? And this might be helpful to the listeners, like for pricing, some of the strategies were, forget the pricing of going over, right? You don't even go by the sold price necessarily. We're going by the list price, right? So just because it's sold for that, and it doesn't mean that's the price of this house today, right?
I'm going to tell you what I say, and I'm going to tell your listeners a technique that they can actually use it. Okay. So awesome. First of all, you got to look the best. The property has to look the best. Has to be marketed the best, which is the agent, and it has to be priced the best in the lowest 25% of the market. So that's one. Now, as far as pricing, LA, it's so difficult to price compared to Austin.
Is it?
Yes, you guys have communities. You go for the other part of the bridge. The sizes. They're similar homes.
Yeah.
One has pool, one doesn't have pool, but you can't say the roof is made of gold. In LA, right. Sellers are like, "No, you don't understand. When you walk 4 levels up on the rooftop, you see a little bit of Century City." I'm like, who cares? That's not a view, right? But they think they got a view. So it's like
Century City.
Yeah. So we have a lot of, you go 2 blocks up, it changes completely. It's called LA, but it's not LA. So one of the things I say that as an agent, you gotta know where you're located, but to price it low so you can get high, you always know you get higher when you price low, right?
Yeah.
So in MLS, you can pull all the solds that they were priced high and they sold less, and they have a red, I don't know about your MLS, ours has a red arrow down.
Okay.
Show that and how many of them were arrow down, and then look at all the ones that they priced low and they have a green arrow up. Look at the percentage of how much lower it sells when they start chasing the market, and look at the percentage sells higher compared to what dropped. So if you look at, this is just math.
Yeah.
You look at low, it jumps up, and speed and money, which is most people say, I want best service, I want to sell the most, and also I want to sell it fast.
Yeah.
Usually you can't get all three. So
Right.
So if you do that and go there and just say, you decide which one would you like. Look at this, you're going to get red arrow or green arrow. And you know, when you go to a doctor and just say, if you don't take antibiotic, you might die. Or if you take antibiotic, you won't die. You decide.
Yeah.
No matter how much you're against the drugs, you walk out, you're like, well, there's a possibility I'll die. So
Yeah.
So put them in that box and just say red arrow or green arrow.
Yeah.
Which would you pick? And it's so they
Great visual
for that, you know?
Yeah, no, I love that visual because again, so much of anything in life, right, is a self-discovery process, and it needs to make sense for people so that they can make a decision. It is their biggest asset. They should be, but they deserve that data. And I think data now matters. I mean, data's always mattered, but because it is so tricky and it's moving constantly, it really matters. And it matters in your micro neighborhood too, can be very different. We do see that a little bit, not as extreme as LA with like all the special stuff. I mean, it's getting there a little bit on some of ours.
Well,
I'm like, how do we have a $20 million house in Austin? Like, whoa, where did that come from?
10% of LA. So you guys got all the LAs. I mean,
exactly.
Most of people I know, I just sold something, they all moved to Austin. And I'm like, well, you guys don't take this LA culture there because they're all like awesome cool people, and you guys are gonna go just do whatever you want and mess it up.
Yeah, and it's definitely been interesting. You know, and before I wrap up with this last thought that I have, would any of our guests like to ask a question to Harma or anybody watching on our live stream? We have some people watching. If you have a question on the live stream, put it in the chat. And one of our lovely guests here in our little studio audience, if you have a question, go ahead and unmute and ask. Of course, now Elham's not going to ask anything.
I have a bunch of questions. I wish I could get in touch with him direct, but
You can't.
I can connect you. Do you have anything you'd like to ask on the call, though?
for the coaching, if he does one-on-one coaching, knows my culture, and there are some taboo that I would like to talk to him about.
Yeah, I mean, my email is HH.
Oh, give me 1 second.
I'll put it in the chat box for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, reach out. I'm happy we can set up a Zoom and we can talk about it there. You know, I'm happy to share whatever or be direct, as you can tell I am. So, but yeah, feel free to ask me, contact me, and I will be happy to set it up.
I will. Thank you so much.
I love that. I love that. See, Elham, aren't you glad you were here today?
Oh, I am.
That was so worth it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. If there's no questions, then I'm going to go ahead and go on what I have in mind here. Then, Elham, did you have anything else, or are you good?
No, thanks for being here. It's awesome. So proud of you.
Oh, yeah, it's lovely. And I'm so happy to have you with us, Elham. Elham's in our office with us at the North. She's amazing. Okay, so I want to go back to your book here in page 203. And it's kind of near the end, or it is pretty much the very end of the book, but you say, life is a curious thing. For me, it is hard not to feel a world away from where my life began almost 40 years ago. Now 40 years ago, right? Because happy birthday, right? I mean, technically, I'm a world away from Iran, but it's not just about geography. I grew up in a place where I was not meant to exist, a place where my identity was contrary to culture, standards, and faith. I grew up in a home filled with dysfunction and strife, with a parent who struggled to provide love and security to someone like me who so desperately needed it. I carried the weight of all that on my shoulders as early as I was able to perceive it, a weight that made me feel unworthy, afraid, and alone. But if you carry a weight constantly, eventually you become stronger. I resigned myself to live a life that was not necessarily based on who I was or what I wanted, but on what was expected of me, finding happiness in the shadows and never fully coming into the light. But then everything changed on that fateful day. On the side of a mountain, unbeknownst to me, the weight I carried and the strength I built was all I could fight. So I fought to walk again. I fought to come to the US. I fought for success. I fought for the privilege to live my life in truth. I fought for love and for family. When I was lying on the road in shock with my legs mangled, I didn't know it, but I was just beginning a fight for my life, a life of happiness, hard-earned and well-deserved happiness. I could go on and on with these passages, honey. There are so many good ones. You know, it's almost like the second time reading it hit me harder.
I'm so grateful that you read it again. You have no idea. Thank you.
I'm so honored to have you here today. So when you think of this, though, that people will read your story and think about how they can overcome whatever it is, because we're hearing a lot of, I mean, right now there's a lot of mental, fear, there's anxiety, depression, suicide. I mean, right now the young culture, I have 17 and 20-year-olds. My 17-year-old son is surrounded by depression and all kinds of stuff, and what's been happening because of the pandemic, because they've been so isolated, right? But to think about that, whatever is happening in life, you have a choice, right? And that's the whole playing to win mentality in life. Did I play to win today? And when I look at you and I see all your stories, and again, when I met you, people may not know, when I met you, you were a team leader, you were this superstar. We're at a dinner together from all the top team leaders, and I was still in Reno, and I just thought, wow, what an amazing guy. I've always been attracted to you. Always thought you're an amazing, incredible human being, which obviously I'm a great talent scout. Says a lot for my intuition with people. But man, I did not know any of these things. And I remember texting you while I was reading it going, OMG. Honey.
I knew what chapter you were in with certain things.
Exactly. And I'm so inspired, because I just want people to know that there is a way, there is a better way. And you are such a beautiful, beautiful, just testament of that.
Thank you. Thank you for all of this. I think if I have to say one thing before you guys go, is that write down for everything you have and you're lucky to have and you're grateful, and forget about what's happening. Although it might not make you excited every single day, but it will help you when you're down to bounce back up until we're end of this. Because you just, as alone we are, you're the only person can make yourself happy.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a big one right there. That's a big one right there. So, oh my gosh. Okay. Harma, thank you so much for your time today. I know we'll have you back again, but thank you. I appreciate you. I'm so glad you got back up again and again, and that you are in my world. You inspire me, and I have nothing but love for you, and you will inspire many with your story. So
thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Happy move-in day. Happy move-in day in Palm Springs.
Nice to meet you, Alham. Bye.
Thank you. Same here. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Melanie.
Bye.